Is narcissism contagious? There is a hadith, which I'm going to read to you, that explains to you about companionship and what happens when you're with a person of a certain nature. Narrated Abu Musa, Allah's Messenger ﷺ said, the example of a good companion who sits with you in comparison with the bad one is like that of the musk seller and that of the blacksmith's bellows or furnace. From the first friend, i.e. the perfume seller, you would either buy musk or you would enjoy its good smell. You would smell beautifully with fragrance of perfume. While the bellows would either burn your clothes or your house, or you get a nasty bad smell thereof and you're covered in soot. So that should tell you something about who you are patronizing, who you are accompanying, who's your companion, and who you are spending a lot of your time with. We also have a quote by Nietzsche who states in a summarized form, when you stare long enough into the abyss stares back at you. And that is the monster that rises up within you. Now, what does this have to do with contagion and narcissism? Say, for example, you are married to a narcissist. You are female and you are married to a male narcissist. What will happen is that you will forget and you will let go of the person you once was. That is because in order to live and dwell and coexist with the narcissist, you will have to let go vital signs and states and parts of your identity that made you who you were. Uniquely you, an individual you. You will have to destroy and kill off parts of that persona, parts of your character traits, parts of your personality and your identity in order to merge in the dual mothership shared fantasy of this relationship that you will enter into with the narcissist. Now, what's going to happen is when life is stripped to the bare minimum, as it will do in this instance, you will find yourself devolving into survival mode. So if you recall the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with self-actualization as the highest pinnacle on the pyramid towards your human growth, the bottom of the pyramid is concerned with just surviving. When you're with a narcissist, he will break you down and drop you from the high levels of self-evolution that you have grown to in your adult life. He will drop you down many, many levels until you reach survival mode. When you are operating from survival mode, you are no longer accessing all of the devices and growth points and new inbuilt strategies and modus operandi like maturity that you have had, throughout your growth and into adulthood. What will happen to you is the steady devolving, devaluing, and infantilizing of yourself. Basically, you are returning to a childlike state where your neuroplasticity has to reach a state where this narcissist can mold you. Otherwise, the relationship is not going to work. It's going to have to mold you and, contort you into something of his own creation, which he will then despise and discard anyway. But in the process of devolving you, you will slip into survival mode where you're only focusing on your basic needs being met so that you keep yourself alive. And when you devolve into that primitive state of survival, you start acting in ways that are unlike you and the person you were before you met the narcissist. You will start behaving more like the narcissist than yourself. You will start to mirror their ways in order to survive and get out of the conundrum or arguments or tit-for-tat baiting that he, sucks you into. You're going to have to find ways and devise solutions to save whatever fragments of your sanity remain. You cannot mix a rotten fruit with good fruit, for sooner than later, you will see that the good fruit start getting infected by the rotten fruit's disease, and it will pollute the entire bunch in the basket. And when you learn long enough, over a long enough period, that your empathy, your kindness, your desire to resolve conflicts, your willingness to bend and please and contort yourself into ways to make the fights go away, to stop the arguments, the stuffing down of your emotions because you don't want to cause a fight. So you ignore the inner child screaming at you that your needs are not being met. You silence and you quell the inner voice that is upset with something, but you dare not say anything due to him getting upset with you, the silent fury, rage that he will build up against you that terrifies you. So you will mute yourself, you will shut your mouth, you will quiet your voice, and you will just accept that this is your lot in life, and that the only way to keep the ship smooth sailing is by you swallowing up all the pain and absorbing it like a shock absorber or a sponge of some sort for this toxic waste that is now being produced in this relationship. Of all the love that you've poured into him that has turned to poison, you're going to have to suck it all up and sponge like a sponge in order to keep this relationship going. Because dare you speak up, dare you even try to make your voice heard and get your needs met, you know it's going to be met with hostility, it's going to be met with disdain, disregard, disrespect, and denied. And you do not want to go through that pain again, because it could also end up in a narcissistic rage where he may start physically harming you or shouting and screaming at you or breaking things in the house and causing such a scene of chaos that you rather just be quiet and stay sad and depressed and retreat into your shell, the shell of a human being that you have now become, so that you don't stir the monster. So after long enough with the narcissist, you begin to have a gauge on what works and what doesn't work, and what coping mechanisms to adopt and how to adapt to your new situation of chaos, uncertainty, unpredictability, and absolute walking on eggshells because you are completely anxious and terrified of an outburst. This now will either make you act in two different separate ways. The first part is you become like the narcissist, and that has a whole subsection which I will go into. And the second part is where you completely destroy yourself. You don't become the narcissist, but you are neither yourself, you're just a zombie. Okay, so that's clear cut and pretty straightforward. Now, the part of you that becomes like the narcissist. First of all, you can adopt personality traits, but you cannot adopt a personality disorder. This is very important. So can you become a narcissist? To a degree, you can develop narcissistic traits, yes. Can you become a person with narcissistic personality disorder? No. This person is due to early childhood trauma. Enough trauma in adulthood could cause you to become very narcissistic with a lot of traits, such as you start fighting back exactly the way he fights with you. You start fighting fire with fire. You start giving tit for tat. You start stonewalling. You start criticizing him. You start throwing back all the insults he hurls at you. You start to give him the silent treatment. You start ignoring him. You start putting yourself first. You start telling him where to get off and making sure that your needs are absolutely met, showing complete disregard for the narcissist's needs. This is more of a revenge tactic. It can also be very useful and helpful in getting your cart back on the rails, your cart of self-esteem, self-worth, your self-value, your self-concept, self-individuality, self-identity, your belief in yourself, your self-esteem, and your confidence. Sometimes a very equal and opposite reaction thrown back at him is what is needed in that situation. Of course, this relationship will switch the power dynamics, and it may not work out because he may realize he's lost his hold on you. So either he will dig in deeper, become more cruel, or he will discard you and leave for someone that is easier to manipulate. So once you find your newfound self-respect, you will be a force to reckon with, but often than not, it will include using tactics that were used against you to begin with. More often than not, you come out of this relationship being extremely fatigued. Even while in the relationship, you suffer from fatigue like no other. This will cause you, by nature, to become more abrupt, rude, and short with people. Your curtness is due to your extreme exhaustion, and this will in turn make you quite rude. So like the narcissist does not care for other people's feelings, you will also come across this way. The second way that you will cope with his abuse is by becoming entitled yourself. This is one way that you will start to, of course, reclaim yourself, There is, of course, a healthy entitlement that we should have on, the spectrum of healthy narcissism. But you might become pathologically entitled if you then start putting yourself absolutely above everyone. And this usually happens due to you making an overcompensation in returning your former self, returning yourself back to you, and reclaiming yourself and ownership over yourself and your autonomy. This is because you've allowed things to slide in the other direction for so long. You're trying in most extreme ways to overcompensate for how much you've lost and the time that you've lost in losing yourself by becoming super bitchy, super extra rude, entitled, and narcissistic. This is, of course, a coping mechanism. It is a way to get yourself back. It's not the healthiest way, but it is something that makes you look like a narcissist. Over time, you develop thick skin and high walls because you have to deal with so much abuse, so much backbreaking, invalidation and disapproval and unappreciation for everything that you have done. You will feel absolutely worthless and broken down, so your capacity to feel empathy for other people will be greatly compromised. So you won't be able to share of yourself, to have time or patience for others. Your tolerance and bandwidth for other people's problems will diminish greatly because you're so overwhelmed and overridden with your own internal, problems and sacrifices and the way that you were stripped bare from yourself, of yourself, that you won't have the empathy, kindness, tolerance to offer other people the way you did before, because it would have been drained and exhausted and completely depleted from you by the narcissist. This in turn will make you appear to be narcissistic because, as you know, the narcissist with NPD does not care about other people insofar as it does not benefit him. So you're going to be wiped out and your linguistic propriety is going to be greatly compromised. You might be swearing a lot, taking out a lot of vocal rage, talking down to people, talking to people in ways that are a bit disrespectful sometimes, inflammatory, abrasive, harsh, critical. All of the introjects that the narcissist has infested and infected you with and implanted in you are going to come out at the people that you interact with. So this problem that the narcissist has hijacked you, infiltrated you, and the viral infection that he has spread inside of you is going to be a very far-reaching problem, and it is infectious and it is contagious. In that regard, with whatever he has possessed you with of demonic entities from his introjects, you are going to be the same person to other people and even to yourself. You're going to become a narcissist to yourself. And many people don't realize this is happening. But long after the narcissist has gone, that's only 10% of the problem solved. The rest of the problem is going to be within you, inside of you. The introjects that he's left inside of you, of the infection, is going to be the narcissist within you, bullying you, criticizing you, talking down to you, making sure you feel worthless and telling you that you are nothing and that you don't deserve anything good because you are a bad person, and so on and so forth. And this, of course, in turn would lead you to becoming that narcissistic voice within yourself and outside of yourself, where you start to spew the same venom on other people. So it's like the narcissist has cloned himself in you. You're a different looking avatar body from him, but he has transferred his soul, or his lack thereof, inside your body, possessed your avatar, your human meat suit, and now you speak with his voice, which is extremely terrifying. But this is declared by Sam Vaknin, Professor Sam Vaknin, who is a clinically diagnosed narcissist, which I suggest go and watch his videos, Sam Vaknin. He explains this in detail. And I have gotten a lot of my material from him, and I explain this in my other videos on introjects, etc. You also develop the resolve, which is if you can't beat them, join them. So you become like them in order to fight them. Because honestly, fighting them as a nice, empathetic, kind, sweet, tolerant person doesn't work. They will find you inferior and think of you as worthless and beneath them anyway. That kind of vulnerable, kind, wonderful, sweet human behavior, empathic, empathy-driven behavior, for them, in their eyes, is just viewed upon as weakness. They will scorn you, despise you, and disdain you for that. softness, that beautiful feminine softness that you have. They will see it as weakness and they will prey on it. You may even in the long run become more sadistic. You will take joy, especially joy, in watching the narcissist suffer. You want him to feel pain that he has caused you. So then you go to extreme lengths to get him to feel the pain. But remember, if you're going to take revenge, dig 2 graves. The narcissist does not feel what you feel. You think you will feel joy by making them suffer, but in the long run, it's not going to help you because he has the no empathy advantage. You can make his life miserable for a while, sure, but he's miserable anyway. He's a vapid, empty, soulless creature. He's miserable and decrepit, and he's self-loathing. He hates himself. He's extremely depressed and dejected and feels no connection to anything or intimacy to anything in this world. So he's already at a loss, a huge loss. It's incomparable. So by you wasting your time trying to make him feel this and exacting the sadistic punishment on him, it's actually just going to do you more harm because, of course, the narcissist, he doesn't feel anything. So you might make him uncomfortable for a while, perhaps piss him off, but this could also lead him to doubling down on his revenge to you. And he can make your life a heck lot more miserable than you can make his because, as I've mentioned, he has the no empathy advantage. So be warned. I have made a video on taking revenge of a narcissist. Please check it over here. The other ways that you can become like a narcissist are you will adopt a victimhood. Now, this is a very sensitive issue for many people who are victims of narcissistic abuse. Now, there's no victim shaming in here. And I do mention in many of my videos that to a degree we are all responsible for the decisions we've made and how long and how far we've allowed this relationship to continue when everything inside of us was screaming no and run the other way. And we've ignored it at our own peril. Now, you will adopt a victimhood because the narcissist is the most pathological perpetual victim that has ever walked this earth. Nothing is their fault. Everything is the fault of other people and everyone else is to blame. You are under a high degree of risk when this introject is inserted into you and you adopt it. So that long after the narcissist has left your life, you are still feeling like you are a victim and you have been wronged and woe is you and your life is a failure because this person came into your life. I want you to understand that you have been victimized, but you are not a victim. A victim means they had absolutely no say in the matter. They were like a lump of corpse just lying there on a bed, unable to move, and could not defend itself at all, could not even lift an arm to protect themselves. That is true victimization, like a baby in a crib or like an old age, geriatric lying in their deathbed when they cannot move an inch and they need to pee and, use the bathroom in the bed. That is helplessness. That is true victimhood. That is circumstantial victimhood. Now, for someone who has suffered narcissistic abuse, you have been victimized. But to a degree, we have also been co-conspirators in this. And we have to accept that if we want to reclaim our power and our agency and our voice back. So do not let this introject from the narcissist infect you where you are now a perpetual doomed victim who will always attract narcissists and will always be victimized because poor you, what happened to you? Yes, it's a terrible thing that happened to you. No one is arguing that. However, to maintain that stance and frame of victimhood is very damaging to you. And it is also the introject of the narcissist that he goes and walks through life with. That's the frame and the lens through which you use life. So if you want to switch away from that introject to absolutely exorcise him and detox him from your system, you need to never see yourself as a victim again. You need to see yourself as a predator. No, that's one extreme. But you need to see yourself as someone who is a monster, capable of much evil. But because of your empathy and your human soul and your will to live and see others live and, kindness to them, you will not bring out that monster unless there is a need for it. Like Jordan Peterson always says, you should be a monster. It's very important to be a monster. It's to know that you can do harm, but don't, unless it's actually called for. The other thing that occurs in you that may resemble that of a narcissist once the narcissist has left your life is you will be displacing a lot of anger and rage. So what is displacement is, for example, if the narcissist screams at you and upsets you, you get this absolute rage in you that is so angry and you need to express it somehow. But then someone crosses your path in the mall and, maybe runs a trolley over your foot. And you take that same screaming anger that you've stuffed down in yourself, that the narcissist has put on you, and you start screaming at this person in the store. Or someone is taking very long in the queue, you start screaming at them. That is displaced anger. So this displacement will occur when you have been involved with a narcissist, either during the relationship or after, or both. And this is because you do not have the freedom or the bandwidth to respond to the narcissist with that level of anger and rage because of how they behave when you express your feelings. So because you've stuffed down your voice and you've suppressed yourself to such a degree that it's toxic and turned to poison inside you, any poor person that crosses your path is going to get it. It's like a shower of bullets that are just going to fly, without discernment, without any target. It's just going to fall on everyone and everything. And that is very unjust. Those people are going to be victims of your displaced anger and rage from the narcissistic abuse that you've received. So this reactive response is like a pressure buildup in some vault or valve, or like a walking powder keg. So the slightest spark anywhere outside the house or even at home with your children is going to make you explode. This will also show and exhibit actions of completely inappropriate and disproportionate levels of a reaction to something than ever before. For example, they maybe just dropped a rubber on the floor or dropped a spoon on the floor, and you will scream out and lash out like it's World War III. That poor child will be terrorized to smithereens, start screaming and crying for help, or just run away from you and be scared. Alternatively, this is just one example. If you have this in your home, this is what could happen. Another example is you have all of this pressure building up in you from all the abuse that you've taken, and you cannot return to sender, even though you might sometimes, and it may be a terribly violent fight and a horrific outcome. But if you do go out with this rage that is building up in you, the smallest thing, I know that when I was freshly discarded, I used to drive around and I was in such a rage that the smallest weight at the robot would send me into a blind fury, a rage that was so scary. And I would drive literally like a maniac, just overtaking people, swerving really sharply and dramatically and trying to overtake. Even if they waited 1 or 2 seconds longer at the robot when it turned green, I would get so upset. I would be hooting my horn and swerving over them and really going nuts at people who did nothing wrong. So this is very important. This is all embodying the narcissist, the effects of having been with a narcissist, and the narcissistic rage that is displaced from yourself. Also his introjects and voices in you that are expressing itself to the world via your body, via your meat suit, via your avatar, your human avatar, because he's not possessed you in a sense. So these are the ways that narcissism is contagious. As I've mentioned before, and to summarize, narcissistic personality disorder is not contagious, but the traits of narcissism are contagious, and they are very damaging. And I pray that you find the healing that you need, and I'm here for your support. Catch my videos, catch my course down below. If you need or have any questions, do comment or send through your requests on my email. Lots of love and light. Assalamu alaikum and goodbye.